What if a narrow stretch of water could shake the global economy? What if a regional conflict in West Asia could affect oil prices, shipping routes, and even India's energy security? This is exactly why the Strait of Hormuz matter. Today's the Hindu editorial Battle of Wills is not just about the US and Iran. It is about geopolitics, maritime power, strategic choke point, and why diplomacy often matters more than military pressure. Let's break down it in UPSC oriented way. Let us begin with the situation. Tensions between the United States and Iran have moved beyond direct military confrontation into a larger strategic contest. On one side, the US has maintained pressure through blockades and economic coercion. On the other, Iran has asserted leverage through control over maritime routes, particularly around the Strait of Hormuz. Diplomatic talks have slowed, military pressure continues, and what we see now is what the editorial calls a battle of wills, meaning a contest not only of military strength but of strategic endurance. Who yields first? Who sustains power longer? That is the nature of this confrontation. Now, let's understand why this region is so important. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a waterway, it is a strategic choke point. A choke point is a narrow route which is a vital globe trade pass. Okay, and in this case, energy trade. A significant share of global oil shipments move through this route. That means any disruption here can affect oil prices, shipping cost, inflation, and global supply chain. Okay, and this is why a regional crisis here quickly becomes a global concern. For UPSC, this links directly to energy security, sea lines of communication, and maritime geopolitics. And for India, which depends heavily on imported energy, development in this region matters immensely. Now, the editorial brings in deeper strategic concept. First, coercive diplomacy. This means using pressure like economic pressure, military pressure, or strategic to force negotiation or concession. The US uses pressure through blockades. Iran uses pressure through maritime leverage. This is a classic coercive diplomacy. Second concept, security dilemma. One side takes action for its own security, the other sees it as a threat and response. Escalation follows and a cycle begins. This is a major international relation concept. Third, balance of power. Both sides seeks leverage. Neither wants to appear weak, and this creates prolonged strategic standoff. That is why the editorial is really discussing power politics as much as current events. Okay, now now let's go to the editorial central argument. Military coercion may create pressure, but it does not actually always create solution. Okay, and that is an important distinction. Okay, because the editorial suggests conflict has reached a point where continued escalation may create costs without clear strategic gains, and those costs are not only military, they can be economic, humanitarian, and geopolitical. This is where the debate shifts from hard power to diplomacy, and this is a major UPSC concept, hard power to diplomacy. Okay, military strength can shape outcome but often cannot sustain peace, and history repeatedly shows lasting solution usually needs negotiation. Okay, and that is where the editorial proposes reciprocal de-escalation, an important phrase meaning both sides reduce pressure simultaneously. Okay, for example, One side is blockade pressure, the other restores commercial passage. Okay. Here blockade pressure, one releases blockade pressure, they are asking, they are inferring US to reduce the blockade pressure, and to other to restore commercial passage, here they are inferring to Iran. Okay. In that case, confidence builds, talks resume, and diplomacy gets space. This is called confidence building diplomacy. Okay. It is very important in international relations because many conflicts do not move directly from confrontation to peace. They move through gradual de-escalation. See, gradual de-escalation, through that only many confrontation will move towards peace. And the editorial argues this may be the pathway forward. Okay. This is also not only a US Iran issue, it affects global order because disruption in major maritime choke points affects all trading economies. It raises question about freedom of navigation, international law, global trade stability, energy vulnerability, and for India, this has direct relevance. Oil imports, diaspora interest in West Asia, broader regional stability. That is why this editorial matters for India's foreign policy understanding too. Okay. And for UPSC, this editorial connects with GS2, GS3. Okay. In GS2, India and West Asia, like international relation and diplomacy. And in GS3, about energy security, maritime security, strategic choke point, and major IR theories such as security dilemma. Okay. Balance of power, coercive diplomacy. Okay. And so, what is the central takeaway from this editorial? The editorial argues that the Strait of Hormuz is not merely a shipping route, it is a geopolitical pressure point, and its larger message is simple. Military pressure may generate leverage, but sustainable stability usually comes through diplomacy. That is the heart of this editorial. I hope this editorial explanation would have given you some insight in UPSC related way. If you have any doubts, if you want to say anything, put it in the comment section. Thank you.